Arizona desert, 11:47 p.m. Headlights slice through swirling sand, revealing a steel convoy racing toward the U.S. border. These aren't ordinary smugglers. Armed, loaded with cash, and hauling massive drug shipments, the Sinaloa cartel moves with dangerous confidence, convinced the night shields them. But one thing they don't see: eyes in the shadows above, waiting for the perfect moment. This isn't a movie. It's real. At exactly 11:47 p.m. on July 14, 2025, U.S. Navy SEALs and Air Force units tracked the convoy into a pre-planned kill zone in Arizona, ready to strike. Overconfidence would be their undoing. This was more than a trap. It was patience beating precision. Before we dive in, what do you think was their critical mistake? Underestimating U.S. surveillance, ignoring the terrain, or trusting the route was safe? Drop your thoughts below. This wasn't small-time smuggling. 2.4 tons of meth, 500 kilograms of fentanyl, and over $50 million in cash. A high-stakes haul reflecting the cartel's audacity. But across the desert, U.S. forces didn't strike. SEAL Team 6, AC-130 gunships, Ghost Rider aircraft, and long-range Reaper drones tracked the convoy, waiting. Letting the cartel roll deeper into Arizona wasn't hesitation, it was strategy. Apparent weakness would become an overwhelming advantage. Why not hit at the border? Because the trap was already set. 7 days before, SEALs were on the ground in a narrow canyon -20 meters high, 600 meters long, with a single entrance and exit. Perfect for containment. In the pre-dawn silence, teams moved like ghosts, burying claymore mines beneath desert sand, camouflaging seismic sensors under the convoy's path, and hiding infrared cameras in rocky alcoves, invisible even to trained eyes. Above, a relentless MQ-9 Reaper monitored every mile from Mexico, feeding tires, radio signals, and brake lights straight to the command center at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. On a 3D display wall, operators watched the desert shift like a living grid. Every movement tracked, analyzed, and counted. Most importantly, the cartel thought they had a smooth ride. No border blockades, no U.S. response. Instead, they were being funneled like unwitting pieces into a deadly kill box. Unbeknownst to them, a guide planted days earlier steered them straight into the trap. Their confidence, built on trust in familiar routes, blinded them to the danger ahead. At exactly 1:14 a.m., the lead truck entered the canyon, headlights slicing through the narrow corridor flanked by sheer cliffs. One by one, the armored pickups, heavy trucks, and more than 60 gunmen followed, convinced the path was clear. Underground, buried seismic sensors trembled under each wheel, sending precise signatures to the U.S. Command Center. On the glowing screens at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, red dots tracked every vehicle inching deeper into the trap. To the cartel, everything seemed normal, until the radios suddenly cut to static. Electronic jamming blanketed the canyon. The gunmen hammered their radios, unaware each word was already intercepted. High above, an MQ-9 Reaper silently tracked the convoy, streaming live imagery to SEAL commanders and drone pilots monitoring each move. On the ground, the convoy looked less like trucks and more like a steel serpent, headlights glinting as it slithered into a canyon with only one exit, a textbook kill zone. Overconfidence blinded them. Convinced they'd cleared the border, they pressed on, oblivious to the trap tightening around them. On the ridges, SEAL Team 6 operators lay flat against stone, rifles locked, infrared scopes glowing. Each man had a target, but orders crackled over encrypted headsets. Hold fire, let them go deeper. Every meter forward shrank escape routes, leaving fewer options to scatter. The patience was surgical. Seconds stretched into minutes. On the command screens, the convoy formed a chain, trapped in the canyon's narrowest point. The officers watching stayed silent. They knew once the jaws closed, the convoy would be trapped with no way out. Ground sensors tracked weight and timing. Cameras hidden in rock cracks relayed every heat spike from engines pushed to the limit. The canyon had become a living surveillance machine. The Sinaloa gunmen felt time stretch. Some glanced nervously at cliffs looming above, shadows too still for the desert wind. But no ambush appeared. Their leader barked into a dead radio, assuming a technical glitch, not total isolation. Headlights bounced off canyon walls that seemed to narrow with each passing second. Soldiers on the ridges shared the same thought. The steel snake was in the box, but permission to strike hadn't come. That silence, stretched under desert stars, carried more tension than the fight itself. Fingers hovered over triggers, waiting for the word to unleash chaos. Blind and mute under American control, the convoy crept toward the center of its grave. The question wasn't if the strike would hit, but which would trigger it first. The buried explosives, the thunder of the circling Ghost Rider, or the crack of a suppressed rifle from above. At 1:14 a.m., the answer was seconds away. By 1:21 a.m., the canyon erupted. The canyon erupted in chaos. Tires shredded, engines ignited, and armored vehicles crumpled under the force of the buried claymores. The first trucks were reduced to mangled steel, their lead crews caught in an instant inferno. From above, the AC-130J Ghost Rider rained destruction. Its 30mm cannon tore through the night, tracer rounds slicing into cabins and gun mounts, while 105mm shells slammed into transports with brutal accuracy. One impact flipped the truck, triggering a chain reaction of explosions that lit the canyon like daylight. Cartel fighters bolted from burning vehicles, only to run into SEALs hidden on the cliffs. M4, A1's barked, MK-17s boomed, each shot precise, each target chosen. Shadows seemed alive, spitting death at every turn. In minutes, the convoy's confidence, firepower, and momentum were gone, crushed under the relentless surgical strike of American forces. One cartel fighter tried to fight back. He scrambled onto the hood of a smoking pickup, RPG-7 poised toward the ridges. For a heartbeat, it looked like he might fire, but a single shot from a SEAL marksman ended it. The launcher tumbled, igniting on impact. The explosion killed him instantly and ripped through two nearby comrades. In this canyon, defiance was a death sentence. For nearly 10 minutes, fire and smoke ruled the night. Trucks burned, radio screamed static, and gunmen fired blindly into stone. The steel serpent that had entered with such swagger was now twisted and broken. Yet one vehicle pushed on, a reinforced Ford Raptor. Inside, El Gallo, the Sinaloa lieutenant, survived. The mission wasn't finished. Intelligence made clear. This one man mattered more than all weapons, drugs, and cash combined. Capturing him alive could expose the cartel's inner workings. Killing him would send a brutal message. Above, a tiny UAV, the Black Hornet, launched from a handheld pod, barely bigger than a palm. It slipped through the smoke, hugging the canyon floor. Its miniature cameras scanned every vehicle, feeding real-time images to the command center. Minutes later, the target was locked. Inside the reinforced Ford Raptor at the front of the convoy, El Gallo hunched over his radio, shouting into the microphone. Only static answers. The U.S. electronic warfare net had severed all lifelines. For the first time in years, a cartel boss was completely isolated. On the canyon ridges, SEALs tracked the truck through scopes. Orders came down. Do not kill. Contain. The AC-130 Ghost Rider adjusted its orbit, firing with surgical precision. Explosions landed just meters from the armored Raptor, rattling the canyon and sending stone shards across the windshield. Cracks spiderwebbed across El Gallo's view. He ducked low, panic on his face, realizing he was no longer in control. He was prey in a cage of fire. Chaos hit the SEALs too. A fragment from a 105mm shell cut one operator's shoulder. A teammate dragged him to cover, applying pressure while calling medevac. Around them, the battlefield was a blur of smoke, sand, and shouted commands, each second carrying the weight of life or death. Adrenaline sharpened senses, and training kicked in instinctively, turning panic into coordinated action. Even amidst the chaos, each movement was deliberate, each decision measured, reflecting the discipline that defines Special Operations Forces under fire. Minutes later, the low thump of rotor blades cut through the canyon. An HH-60W Paidhawk, masked by cliffs and guided by night vision, hovered long enough to winch the wounded SEAL to safety. Even in a perfectly planned ambush, the battlefield is unpredictable. Meanwhile, El Gallo's last defenses were crumbling. The remaining cartel gunmen swarmed the Raptor, firing wildly at the ridges. But every flash gave away their position. One by one, they fell. Only the armored Raptor remained. SEAL Team 6 began their descent, moving under suppressive fire from the cliffs and the unblinking eyes of the Ghost Rider above. Boots crunched over scorched gravel, past burning wrecks and bodies, closing in on the last vehicle. A single precise volley shattered its side windows. Seconds later, the driver's door was yanked open. El Gallo was hauled out, thrashing, but the fight had gone from him. His wrists were cuffed, his encrypted laptop and 2 satellite phones seized. For U.S. forces, this wasn't just a tactical win. It was months of intelligence delivered in one capture. As SEALs secured the prisoner and cleared the canyon, the significance hit. For the first time on American soil, a cartel commander of El Gallo's rank had been captured alive. Interrogation, data extraction, and the unraveling of Sinaloa's network were now possible. The canyon still burned, Ghost Riders circled overhead, but the battle was over. The myth of Sinaloa invincibility had been shattered. 27 minutes after the first mine detonated, silence returned, broken only by flames consuming twisted metal. What had once been a fearsome armored column was now a graveyard of twisted metal stretching 600 meters across the desert. The numbers were brutal. 47 cartel gunmen dead, 19 captured alive, and not a single vehicle left drivable. The destruction was total, but it only told part of the story. Every crate of meth, bag of fentanyl, and stack of cash was seized, representing billions of potential street doses in a country already grappling with its deadliest drug crisis. Alongside the drugs lay machine guns, grenade launchers, and ammo, cataloged meticulously by DEA teams moving through smoke and debris. The crown jewel, however, was the man in flex cups at the canyon's edge, El Gallo. His encrypted laptop, phones, and contact lists were secured within minutes, destined for forensic labs that would crack open Sinaloa's operations. On the ridges, SEALs swept the area, checking bodies, securing survivors, and making sure no one slipped away. The Ghost Rider banked out, mission complete, while the MQ-9 Reaper returned to high-altitude surveillance, guarding against any reinforcements. For now, the canyon was silent, its chaos replaced by total U.S. control. The engines and bravado that once ruled it were gone, replaced by the unmistakable mark of precision and dominance. By dawn, the Arizona canyon looked almost unreal. Sunlight spilled over smoldering trucks, turning twisted metal into golden skeletons. The cliffs glowed as the first rays hit heaps of burned-out machinery, a stark reminder how fast confidence can turn to catastrophe. SEALs stood among the wreckage, their silhouettes framed by morning light, while DEA agents cataloged the seized fortune. This wasn't just another mission. It was proof the cartel's myth of invincibility could be shattered on American soil. The ambush struck Sinaloa like a hammer. Losing tons of narcotics and $50 million in cash was devastating. But capturing a senior lieutenant was even more critical. His knowledge of safe houses, routes, and corrupt contacts was a treasure trove. Analysts later called it one of the most effective single strikes against the cartel in the U.S. Not for the kills, but for the network it exposed. It sent a clear warning. The U.S. could wait, watch, and strike when escape was impossible. As the last fires died and the sun climbed higher, the canyon floor became more than a battlefield. Destroyed trucks, abandoned weapons, and scorched earth formed a monument to patience, planning, and overwhelming force. For the cartel, it was a nightmare. For Washington, a promise delivered. The ambush would be remembered as the day America outsmarted and outmaneuvered one of the world's most feared drug empires. And the message echoed far beyond the Arizona desert. When the U.S. decides to strike, it does so with ruthless precision, always when the enemy is at their most vulnerable. By sunrise over Arizona, the battle was over and already historic. In less than 30 minutes, an entire Sinaloa cartel convoy had been destroyed. Each strike was calculated, minimizing civilian risk while maximizing operational impact. Intelligence, planning, and technology converged to ensure that what might have seemed chaotic from afar was, in reality, a meticulously executed operation. The aftermath was a stark reminder that overwhelming force, applied with timing and strategy, could dismantle even the most entrenched criminal networks in moments. 47 fighters dead, 19 captured, and a massive haul of drugs, weapons, and $50 million in cash seized. Most importantly, their commander, El Gallo, was in custody, his encrypted devices already en route to intelligence labs. For the cartel, the blow wasn't just material, it was psychological. It was a stark reminder. The U.S. could strike anywhere, anytime, leaving nothing behind. The ambush showcased the lethal synergy of intelligence, air power, and special operations. It shattered the myth of Sinaloa's untouchability and redrew the map of risk. The border was no longer a gray zone. It was a red line, Crossing it meant facing the patience, precision, and power of America's elite forces. So here's the question. If the U.S. could wait and annihilate a convoy in Arizona, could it one day take the fight straight into cartel territory? What's your take on this strategy of waiting for the perfect moment? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe to Military Power for more untold stories of warfare, tech, and the secrets shaping our world.